I think they're going to buy these houses with bad mortgages and they're going to lose their home. Just like in 2008. Once people lose confidence in the dollar and everyone wants to withdraw their cash from the bank, just like what we saw back in March with SVB, people will realize that they should have cash. But by the time that happens, it'll be too late to withdraw all your cash. I don't think things are going well.
Annie Margarita Yang is the go-to finance school for millennials who has over 1 million views on YouTube and is the best-selling author of 2 books, The 5-Day Job Search and 1001 Ways to Save Money.
Our country is going bankrupt, Our country doesn't actually have money. The way we have supported the U.S. economy has been through. And honestly, I actually think the U.S. would go to war.
War right? With who?
War with who? I don't know who we will go to war with. There's something that's happening in the United States right now that I don't feel good about. Lately, in the last 2 months, the kind of people coming into the United States have been young men in their 20s. They come here alone, single. And when asked, where are you going? What are you here for? They don't have an answer. They keep quiet. When I heard that, I don't feel good.
This man has been married thrice and has at least 4 ex-girlfriends with 10 children and from 3 different mothers.
Yeah, it's Donald Trump. Right? He's been married 3 times.
So since there's like a lot happening around the world with technology and business and political situations, the Ukraine-Russia war, and the people who aim to be global students or someone who, let's say, aims to be at a global business, I'm pretty sure they're not feeling stable for the last few years due to COVID and financial and the political economic outrests. So where do you see the world of finance heading towards at the moment globally?
I genuinely, personally, I think that we are going to have a total economic collapse. It's actually starting right now. I think there's going to be a whole domino effect because there are companies that have already started declaring bankruptcy. Now, it doesn't mean they've closed down yet. They've declared bankruptcy. They filed for it, which means there will be restructuring. And in order to cut costs, they will need to lay off staff. Bed Bath Beyond was a recent one here in the United States that have announced bankruptcy. And I don't think things are going well. We had a bond market crash sometime last week as well. And honestly, I think maybe next year, they keep saying we're about to head into a recession. I think we're already in a recession. We're already in the midst of it. A lot of people are struggling. Inflation is crazy. People can't afford to buy things anymore here in the United States. I'm sure it's like this across the world as well, And I genuinely think we are going to head into a second Great Depression. And during the first Great Depression in the 1930s, we had an unemployment level around 20% in the United States. I foresee something of a similar level coming very soon.
What are some of the key indicators that you are seeing right now based on which you think that there's going to be a recession soon?
I believe that it is the fact that there are these bankruptcies. Now, the headlines are trying to make it sound like, we've added a lot more jobs to the economy. I think they said 300,000, but we lost a lot of full-time jobs, and the jobs that were added back in were actually more part-time jobs. So we've already lost more full-time jobs than we've gained. We've gained only part-time jobs. Another thing is I keep reading news about how people are not able to make their car payments, so they're on default on their auto loans. So very soon, their cars will get repossessed. Another thing is student loan repayments have just begun October 1st, which was only 2 weeks ago at this point. Can you imagine, the last 3 years, we have 44 million Americans that have student loans. They make up 20% of the U.S. population. And for the last 3 years, they haven't had to make a single payment toward their student loan. We're talking about $300 to $500 a month that they haven't had to make. And all of a sudden, where are they going to have room in their budget? It's not like it's not like they said, oh, we don't have to make the student loan payment. Let me set aside and pretend that I still have to make this payment and set it aside into a savings account every month. No. You know what people did instead? They looked at it like, oh, now we have all of this free money set aside, like in our budget. We're going to spend it on stuff. So they've already gotten acclimated to a brand new lifestyle, and all of a sudden you're asking these people to make $300 to $500 monthly payments. It's not going to work out, and the government's going to end up garnishing their wages. They're going to garnish your wage, and then with that, people are not going to have money to spend. There's going to be like a whole domino effect where if they don't spend money on small businesses and other consumer products, going out to eat, things like that, these small businesses already having trouble staying afloat are going to go under, I believe. And they're also going to have to let people go. Those are just some of the things. There's other things like we see mortgages. Interest rates keep going up. A lot of people right now desperate to get a home, just like in 2008. They are getting adjustable rate mortgages, hoping that later the interest rates will go back down and that they can refinance. Yeah, that's not going to happen. I think they're going to buy these houses with bad mortgages and they're going to lose their home, just like in 2008. Yeah.
A few months ago, there was this bankruptcy of this well-known bank called the Silicon Valley Bank, and there were other who went bankrupt as well. So uh, it seemed like it happened overnight, but of course, when a bank of that size goes bankrupt, it's something that the mistakes have been kept on inside the bank for a long time, but it seems like it's a shock and stuff like that. So it's been a couple of months since that happened. And so what are the reports that you are seeing, the observation that you're seeing that might have caused those kind of dangerous bankruptcies?
I read in the news it was about the amount of treasury bonds that they had, but like all banks have these problems. Like this is a regulation that was set by the Fed. They're required to have a set amount of their reserves in treasury bonds. When they raise the interest rate on them, all of a sudden they're not worth as much. So there's that, right? But the whole system is basically, I feel it's very fragile. It's like this house of cards. The thing is like everybody, I've come to realize actually nobody actually has money. Like a lot of people don't have money. We see people spending money, but it's not their money. They're borrowing money from someone else. Bank borrows money, consumers borrow money, businesses borrow money. Like it's all as if like this whole thing is like everybody owes someone money. There's not actually enough cash in the economy. Like all of it is just fake. It's just like numbers on a piece of paper. The numbers that you see in your bank account online. It's not actually like real money unless you have it in your hands. It's not.
I feel like USA and the world in general have been becoming more and more dependent on credits, because if you think about from a company perspective, and you're seeing people are using more credit cards, and the more credit cards they use, the companies or the banks can charge more interest, and every kind of like purchasing and stuff like that, it's connected with online payments, and if you make payments through that online app or the credit card, you're getting incentives. So the banks and the businesses and the hotels are kind of meshing up together to make a very lucrative business system, which to consumers it feels very seamless because you don't have to pull out the cash anymore from your pocket. You just have to pull out your phone and just type random numbers, and done, boom, your payment is made, right? But what people fail to see is the interest that they're charging, and what it does to you is slowly creeps you into a lot of debt, right?
Yes. I think having this easy access to credit, it's nice because it, like if you can use credit in a good way that can help you earn more money, that's fine. But a lot of people, they use credit in such a way where it's like they spend money on traveling or on buying stuff, the things that don't actually add to your wealth. Actually, they purchase things that depreciate in value, cars and things like that. So the problem is it's so easy to borrow money. It's been really easy, especially for the last 13 years, to borrow money. And it is supposed to eventually catch up with people. And I think it's catching up with people now. Because people, when they borrow money, it's not like how I borrow money, where I borrow money. Like, let's say I did borrow $13,000 to buy a piano, but I actually also had $13,000 in cash in my savings to just buy the piano in full when I got it. But the company was offering a 0% interest rate for 12 months. So I figured, okay, well, I can get this loan for 12 months while I have 13,000 in the bank. If something comes up, I can always use the 13,000 for something else, right? It's just like a plan B, but I also set up auto pay for that money to come out of that account so that I paid it off in 12 months. I didn't have to pay any interest. But most people don't think like that. They're like, oh, how much per month? Just $1,000 a month? I think I can make this payment. Like, they're not like thinking like, oh, I actually should have real money in the bank just in case, right? They're using their future income when they are thinking about taking on debt. That's the problem.
I think Robert Kiyosaki also does something similar. Do you know who is Robert Kiyosaki?
Robert Kiyosaki is the founder and the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yes.
Yeah, and I agree with him a lot. Like, it all depends on how you use debt. You know, if you leverage debt in such a way that it's for good reasons, you can rapidly build your wealth. I used to not think like that, but as I've become wealthier, as I've made more money, I've come to realize that man is very much right.
What are some of the things that you don't agree with in Robert Kiyosaki?
That would be hard for me to say. I think when I first came across his book back in my early 20s, when he was talking about good debt versus bad debt, right? I was very much also into Dave Ramsey, and Dave Ramsey is very much like, don't have any debt at all. Debt is bad for you. But I've come to realize Dave Ramsey speaks to like a very specific segment of the audience and the population that really can't emotionally handle debt. Like, their spending is out of control. And I used to be like, okay, if I have any debt at all, then I'm in trouble. I have a different mindset now. Like, if just like Robert Kiyosaki, now I have to agree with him. Like, if I can use debt in such a way that it's going to earn me more money, then I should, right? So in writing the 5-day job search, I also have to spend quite some money to promote the book. I can't just write a book and then hope it sells. I actually have to sell the book. But there are many kinds of expenses associated with creating a successful book that cost tens of thousands of dollars. And I'll be very honest, yeah, I charged it to a credit card. I have been making payments toward the credit card and paying down the balance, but like, I cannot wait to, let's say, I think the old Annie, following the Dave Ramsey advice, I would have saved up the money and when like, okay, I've saved up the money, now I can spend on the business expenses required to sell this book. I cannot wait that long because the timing doesn't work, right? If I want to get this book out quickly before the whole economy crashes so that everyone knows about it, I need access to that money now. But at the same time, I do also have the money on hand to use, right? Like, I have actual cash on hand to spend. But knowing that we're about to head into like this big economic crash, I'm like, I also want to hold on to my cash just in case. You know, I would rather charge it to a credit card, pay down what I can every month while also having cash on hand for just in case something happens where I need to pay for stuff that doesn't let me use credit. Like, for example, I still have to make my mortgage payment every month. I can't charge that to a credit card. I need actual cash on hand. So I'd rather have cash on hand to be able to make my mortgage payments, just to make sure I don't lose my house.
If inflation is eating up the value of your cash, and the recession is likely to make many businesses go bankrupt, then what's the use of keeping cash in hand?
I don't agree with keeping cash on hand. What I've been telling, I say cash, but in my mind, cash is as good as like as liquid as gold. Gold is politically neutral. Gold has been around for thousands of years as a form of currency. It doesn't care if your empire has fallen. It doesn't care about whether your nation is sovereign, right? It's not tied to any specific country or nation or government. It's just there. It just is. Every country wants gold. They're stocking up on gold right now, right? So I actually think, no, you should not keep your cash in cash form. You should be buying physical gold and silver with that money as much as possible, but also still keep some cash on hand for purchases, because you don't want to end up selling your gold just to convert it into cash, right? Yeah.
So interesting times to live in, because society seems to be becoming more cashless and more accepting of the fact of paying online, and banking is becoming more online. And since you said that the USA is most likely heading to recession, USA produces the US dollar. I don't know whether I have termed it correctly or not, because people, the economists, will say that, oh, it's not exactly like that, and there are like other stuff as well. But basically, you know what I meant. Like, they are in control of the US dollar, which is the currency that is used to trade internationally. So if something happens to the US economy, then of course it will have an impact all over the world, especially the countries who keep US dollar as a reserve. So if the US economy crashes, then what are the likely impacts that you are seeing through your investigation around the world?
Mashur, I'm not an economist, so I haven't investigated. I think this is really outside of the scope of my expertise. I just honestly know for a fact other companies all over the world will also go under and out of business. This isn't an issue just like in 2008 that will impact all over the world. A lot of people will lose their jobs and lose their businesses. That's as far as I can say. And honestly, I actually think the U.S. would go to war. Like, this is something that's happened across time, right? When a country loses resources and loses influence and power, what do? They end up going to war to take from others,
War with
right?
who?
War with who? I don't know who we will go to war with, but I just have a very strong feeling like that is the only way for us. If our country is going bankrupt, our country doesn't actually have money. The way we have supported the U.S. economy has been through debt this entire time. So the only way for us to get back, I feel like, is probably our government thinks is to take from others. Really,
Who are they taking it from?
I cannot tell you, because I feel like I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I think
No,
no,
that's
I
okay. I just
genuinely
want to
think
know
like
your idea.
there are like billionaires in this world who are very sick in their mind. They don't care for other people. They want this one world government. They're willing to do whatever it takes. They have some sort of long-term plan that I'm not so sure about, but everything has been planned out. Personally, that's what I think. And there's something that's happening in the United States right now that I don't feel good about. Like, there's this news 2 weeks ago that I heard from one of the mayors in the small town surrounding San Diego County in California, and he was talking in this very extensive interview about 2,000 migrants per day crossing the U.S. border from Mexico. And he said that he said prior to 2 months ago, all of the people coming into the country across the border, it wasn't even that as many as it has started been 2 months ago. But prior to that, it was all ages, women, children, men. They came as families, and he would ask them, like, where are you heading? Do you have any place to stay? And it turns out, like, these migrants used to, they're just coming through. So he would just have to, like, feed them, shelter them for a bit before they're like, oh, yeah, I have my uncle to stay with, or my cousin's here in the US. We're going to go stay with them. They're here illegally, but at least they do have someone here in the United States where they can go to and be with. Lately, in the last 2 months, the kind of people coming into the United States have been young men in their 20s. Fighting age men in their 20s. Over 80% of them are young men in their 20s. They come here alone, single. And when asked, where are you going? What are you here for? They don't have an answer. They keep quiet. When I heard that, I don't feel good. I honestly think there's some sort of plot to have like a terrorist attack sometime soon. I mean, 2,000 people a day. You're looking at 60,000 people a month entering the United States, and we don't know what their intentions are. I honestly feel that there is going to be some sort of coordinated, organized, well-planned attack in major cities like New York City. And whoever's going to do these kinds of attacks, then we're going to retaliate by declaring war after we're attacked first, as a reason for attacking back. So I don't know who, I don't know what, but when I heard this news,
And
that's just my intuition speaking. So
what's the
I hope
Biden
I'm wrong.
administration doing about this immigration problem?
He's the one letting people in.
Why is he doing that? What's his incentive?
I have no idea. It's not, I don't know. It's not right. And then when people like me say we don't want illegal immigrants coming into the country, all of a sudden we're just called racist. But it's a genuine security concern. We don't know what people's intentions are when they cross the border, when they don't have IDs. We don't know where they're from. We don't know where they're going. We don't know what they're here to do, but we let them in to the point where we're so overrun. We've overrun the shelters. My own governor, 2 months ago in my state, I'm in Massachusetts, because like people from Texas and Florida have been sending all their migrants over to my state, because my state apparently says we welcome immigrants openly. We want immigrants here, blah, 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 blah. Like it's like a political talking point. We've been so overrun with migrants to the point where like the governor 2 months ago in a press conference said, can you guys please, if you really like love people, open up your homes and adopt a migrant family, let a migrant family live in your home. Like sponsor a migrant family and let their family be your family. Like she literally said that in a press conference. I don't know what these politicians are doing. Honestly, I don't know what their mindset is. I don't know what Joe Biden does this. I don't know why my governor is doing this. But it's not good news. Yeah.
So if they attack US, will it be through the Mexicans and the immigrants that are getting into the US?
The immigrants are simply passing through Mexico. They're not actually Mexicans themselves. I don't know what their racial or ethnic background is. All I know is based on what the mayor said is they are young men in their 20s. So I wouldn't be able to say.
Do you think it's like Russia or China who is doing it?
I don't know. I don't have this kind of inside government information.
Because like in the news, you see that something is up with Russia or China and the US. During the COVID, they also said there's a conspiracy theory that China is like doing a biological attack on
biological
US.
Warfare.
Biological
Not just on the US, but all over the world, right?
Yeah. Because some people, because they give the evidence that when Corona was like full-fledged ravaging over the world, Chinese economy was actually doing good at that time, while the other economies were actually going down at that time. When like people
actually,
in the US were like dying like anything.
I know, but actually, we think China's economy was good all throughout the pandemic. But my husband actually just came back from a conference for He's entering the room as I'm talking about him. My husband went to this conference for Asian American Studies yesterday, and he was talking about how China, he didn't even know this, China had hidden debt. So apparently there was this sort of loophole that local governments had to use to borrow money to be able to
Hmm.
fund building those local hospitals all in just 7 days. They borrowed a lot of money. Like the kind of hidden debt was, what was it? I think double the size of Japan's GDP.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, so I
Hmm.
don't, they're probably not doing as well as we think they are. Yeah.
Well, if you think about it, like in terms of GDP, I think China is dominating, one of the top developed countries in the world. And if you look at the qualities of the product that they're exporting, in terms of like tech, in terms of the product's durability, I mean, they're making pretty good products. I mean, the phones and even the US companies like Apple, they produce the components of the phones from China, and then they sell it to other parts of the world. So why are they doing that? Because they feel that the Apple feels that it's more cost efficient and quality efficient for them to produce the phones in China compared to the US. So that means China is obviously giving some benefits to the multinationals, that's helping them attract and helping them to conduct businesses there. And China not is not only doing that, they're also developing their own products, their own technology, which they're exporting to other parts of the world. And that's how they're also gaining some kind of power and control over them,
Mm.
especially through the rise of like TikTok and what happened a few years ago. That Trump was against TikTok, and there was like allegations that TikTok is collecting data and
Spying.
is
Yeah.
spying on, yeah, the US economy and their informations and stuff like that. That's the thing that actually is visible and you can see because it was on the news. But when it comes to any tech related product, you also, what you're doing is you are giving some kind of information away that you're not even aware of, and you don't know like where is it going. Let's say I'm talking in, like, we're having a video podcast, right? We are feeling that, okay, I have the file, I have the video, I have the audio, but it's getting uploaded somewhere and I'm downloading it from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But what
Zencaster has access to this file right now.
Yes, so
Yes.
what's happening to the file after I'm downloading it? We never know. We never know what happens behind the scenes. Maybe they're deleting it, but when you delete it, where does the file actually go? Do you know it? Do I know it?
No, we
um,
don't.
maybe the maybe the people who are like computer experts know it, but we don't know it. So um, the security concerns are real, and also like India also banned TikTok because of these kind of political issues and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, these do have an impact because the creator economy is big. It's very big, and TikTok has revolution. I won't say revolutionized, but it has changed the way people consume content. And consume content does not only mean that you're just going through reels. It also means it also has an impact on the way businesses advertise themselves, the way
Mm.
people buy stuff, buy products online, and the way uh, it also has a neurological impact since reels have shortened our attention span, and we are just used to getting like information and like entertainment at snap, right?
Right. Right.
Previously, Vine used to do something like that, but Vine went under the cover, and then after a few years, TikTok came, and they just, even if they got banned, it had a permanent. I would not. I'm not sure whether it's permanent or not, but it's like a very
Massive
vivid,
impact.
very massive impact on other kind of social platforms. Which, for example, it kind of forced YouTube to introduce YouTube Shorts. Facebook to introduce Reels, Instagram to introduce Reels, and Snapchat to introduce Spotlight. And that's how many creators came to rise. And the people who, and the long form content creators who fail to adopt this kind of technology, this kind of like new change, are ultimately seeing a lower revenue count and view count. And this, I'm talking about it from a creator perspective, but this also matters for you, the person who's watching or listening to this, because it's something that goes like both hand in hand. A platform cannot exist without a creator, without creators, and it also cannot exist without viewers. So you cannot say that one is more superior than the other. So there is some kind of impact, even though I'm talking about it from a business and a business owner perspective. I mean, now the Gen Z, like the modern businesses, have this thing where they make reels and memes, meme marketing, to be more relatable with people and to increase the shareability. It was not a thing even like a few years ago.
Yeah,
Right.
I was taking an acting class and we were all asked to introduce ourselves. We had a lot of people in Gen Z in the class who had just finished high school and are just around your age, around 20. And one of them said, "Oh, yeah, I've taken private acting classes before." And I asked her where she found her teacher. She was like, "I found my acting teacher through TikTok." And I was like, people actually like look for professional services through TikTok. Private lessons through TikTok. Oh, interesting. That's how Gen Z is shopping these days. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder how TikTok makes revenue or how TikTok creators earn revenue, because when I visit the TikTok app, I don't see any ads. Um, I don't see any ads. I don't see any like push towards, like I don't see them making any, like pushing me towards buying the subscriptions or anything like the premium service or anything like that, which YouTube has. And YouTube has like both kind of revenue streams through the ads for the free users and the premium features for the people who are willing to pay. But I'm not really sure like how TikTok is making money or the TikTok creators are making money. But what I am seeing is a lot of TikTok creators are getting famous through TikTok, and then they're coming to YouTube and publishing the TikTok to YouTube Shorts, and they're gaining a substantial amount of revenue from YouTube. And YouTube has this feature, has this like policy where they reward their creators after a certain like milestone that they hit. So when how do people understand that this person is a creator? Oh, when they have a silver play button or like a golden play button. People, even though they started from Facebook or TikTok, eventually they shift to YouTube for the revenue thing and also for the recognition thing. Because what do you have as like a creator to make you understand that you're a creator? People like show off their silver play buttons and to make other people feel like, oh, you're a credible person as a creator and that you have actually provided some value through your content. So yeah.
Yeah. But I'm not really sure how people are making money on TikTok because I only made a TikTok last week, so I'm still exploring the app. I do know that I have a friend in China. She's been bugging me for a few months. She's saying that she wants to sell her products on TikTok. She's been asking me to help her set up a corporation here in the US because she wants to sell the products to US consumers. Little consumer products like menstrual pads and things like that you can think of. And yeah, so I think she is making money through TikTok in China, but she wants to expand it to the US. So there is some way. And the other day I found a package in my building and it wasn't something I recognized. I looked at the label and it said from TikTok. I was like, what? Someone in my building like ordered a product through TikTok and then the label said it was from TikTok or something like that. So there's money being made, I think. I'm not really sure how. But as for the ad revenue, I think it's not as good as you think it is. I think for the really big creators, it is. But there's a reason why so many YouTubers use Patreon and
Mm.
take sponsorships. It's because the ad revenue is really finicky. Like YouTube, for any reason, can change the amount of ad revenue you can get for your views. Like it used to be, let's say, for example, they'll give you 9 cents per 1,000 views. Everyone's different. You're not allowed to talk about it based on the terms and conditions, but let's say you're getting 9 per 1,000, and then they can change it to be like, well, all of a sudden, based on some strikes you've gotten or the kind of content you're creating now, you're getting only 5 per every 1,000. So it's finicky. You can't really rely on that if you're going to be a creator permanently, like a successful one financially. Yeah.
I mean, you've made a very good point. And just to explain to my viewers, I'm not monetized through ad yet. I hope I will be in the future. But that's what every creator aims for when they're starting out, is to get some kind of monetization. So I have seen like a lot of videos, and I've done a lot of research about like how creators get paid. So one of the key factors as to how much you're earning from ad is the niche you're making videos um, on. Let's say you're a funny content creator. Okay, so when you're a funny content creator, you make skits and funny contents that make people laugh. So if you think about it, what are the types of products that companies can sell through your content,
Yeah.
right? So if the answer is there's a lot of products, like high value products, it's likely that that niche will be a high paying niche. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
like the
so
finance niche is very
yeah, the
high,
finance
actually.
niche.
Finance niche
But
is very high.
as far as I know, you cannot do that through funny content. So um, you cannot do that through funny content. So if you are having something like that, and compared it to the finance niche, the people who are talking about real estate, the people who are talking about money, credit cards, and let's say let's say you are seeing a video about real estate and a video about housing or land or anything, like an ad pops up. Of course, the product, the value, or the price of the product that they're selling through that ad is more than what's getting sold through the funny content or the cat video,
Mhm.
right? Let's say if you're watching a cat video, I mean, YouTube ads are not like that much personalized according to my experience, but let's say you're watching a cat video and a cat food ad pops up somewhere in the YouTube feed. Of course,
Mhm.
that will be not as expensive as a real estate. So that's how the niches, like the hype, what's that's how the payment gets also determined. Let's say, and there's this thing called like CPM. I don't know the full form of it. So the CPM is something that like how much money you get per thousand views. So depending on the niche, depending on the location, you have different kinds of rates for your CPM. For, let's say, your viewers are from a country where, or a location where they are not financially stable, then there's a high chance that your CPM, or the money that you get per thousand views from that location, will not be that high. Whereas if
Yeah.
your viewers are from a wealthy location, then it's likely that you are going to make more money per thousand views, even if some other creator is getting more views than you. So, um, I mean, you have to have some straight, like you have to have some smartness here as well, because I have heard about creators who are getting lots of views, but then barely making any money, and
Yeah,
and I know
because
about
you
creators, yeah.
can't establish like a good sustainable business model off of just views and relying on its ad revenue. Like the real way to make it, I think, is you have to be smart, like business savvy wise. Just because you know how to create funny, engaging content and get eyeballs and attention doesn't necessarily always translate to getting money. That's something you actually have to think about. Like, how will you make money? What kind of products are you going to sell? What kind of services can you sell through your channel? Like, I have seen, what is, there is this person, this psychologist on YouTube that I like to watch, she talks about narcissism. Like all of her videos are about being like dealing or living with a narcissist or being married to a narcissist, having narcissist parents. Like all of it is about that now. Um clearly she I don't think she's sponsored by anyone. Sure, she gets some ad revenue, but I honestly think the way she makes her money is through selling her book because
Hmm.
the authority and credibility that she's built up from the talks that she gives, along with, of course, I think she has services as well for people, like private one-on-one services for people who are really struggling with living with a narcissist, and need her help. So
Hmm.
the opportunities come from building your authority and credibility, not necessarily directly from ad revenue.
Are you also trying to build a similar revenue model because you also have a book and you're also trying to? Um, I've seen that you're also trying to establish some kind of credibility
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Of course. I actually wrote the book before I did the YouTube channel. I wrote 1001 Ways to Save Money about 2 years before I started doing YouTube. I didn't have any sales for the book, but after my YouTube channel took off, I told people, listen, I don't take sponsorships, but because like I feel like if I take sponsorships, it will make my message not as authentic because I have found that every time a sponsor approaches me and says, we want you to pitch this, and I say, well, this is what I want to say about your product. It's like my genuine, honest opinion. They're like, no, no, don't say that. So they try to like tell me what I can and cannot say in my own video. So I'd rather not take their sponsorship. So I always end my videos by saying, if you really want to support my channel, I'd really appreciate it if you could buy 1001 Ways to Save Money and leave me a review. But actually, a lot of the money I make is not from the book. It's actually from building that authority and credibility. So one of the contracts that I landed from being a YouTuber was here in the United States, there's a big mortgage companies called Rocket Mortgage and Quicken Loans. They are like one of the big ones. And there's a company that does the marketing for those two. They approached me and then they offered me a $1,500 a month contract just to make like 3 videos a month for them on like how to become a first time home buyer. So like
That's a
this
lot.
is yeah, this was an opportunity. It's nice money. It's easy money. It's very easy money because I literally just sit in front of the camera and I do like 20 minutes of takes for them on like for a final 3 to 4 minute video on how someone can become a first time home buyer, 3 per month, right? Um,
Hmm.
and this was an opportunity that they gave me. Like I didn't approach them for it; they came to me, right? This isn't something that you'll see a job listing for and you submit your application. No, this is something that they hunted for. They looked on YouTube and they were like, "Oh, Annie's like she became a first time home buyer at only 25 years old. She'll be really inspirational because we have this whole generation that thinks that they can't buy a house, but because
Hmm.
I successfully bought it without any financial help from my parents, because of this inspirational story, they saw it as like we should use her for the spokesperson of the video, right? So opportunities come simply because people know who you are online. Yeah. That's just one example that I was given. Yeah.
What are the negative sides do you think it comes when you have an online presence?
I guess I would say I have to be careful what I put out online. I no longer write anything personal about my life. I prior to starting a YouTube channel, I would post a lot more personal things like what I did that day or where my husband and I went for dinner, or we were traveling. I would post those kind of stuff. After the YouTube channel thing and after becoming more well known, I even when I had a wedding, I didn't post photos from my own wedding onto my personal Facebook. Any wedding photos that are on my personal Facebook were pictures other people took of me and then tagged me in. But I personally don't post anything personal. Like all the things that I post online these days are work related. Yeah.
Hmm. So, um, if I come back to like taking loans and buying assets and stuff, a lot of people Oh, let's say they got newly married and their job is new, they're not financially stable yet, but they want to settle like as a family and have kids and have a nice home and stuff like that. Let's say they're educated, but they don't have the stable income yet, and they know that they will have some kind of income based on their education and qualification, but they need a home, they need a good place to stay in. So at that time, that is where they decide to like buy a home or a car using loans, and especially if they find the offers to be very lucrative. And now financial advisors are saying that's a like a bad thing to do if you're like buying a phone sorry buying a house for yourself to live in, because it will only depreciate as a like asset and you're not going to make any money out of it. And on top of that, you'll have to pay your credits with interest uh, from the uh, from the institution that you took the loan from. But they also needed a place to stay in. So, what would you do in that kind of situation?
No, unless someone is actually like in a truly financially stable position where they are making enough money. No, I don't think people should be buying a house. Like, I personally had to save for years just to get the down payment. And even after you get the down payment, I think what people forget is they need to keep their housing. Well, recommendation is 30%. Me personally, I think 20 to 25% of your gross income is the best. So, like, right now, I think my housing cost makes up not even what 20 divided by, let's see. Yeah, is not even 20% of my monthly gross income. So, it is actually my housing cost is a very small fraction of my monthly gross income, household
Hmm.
income. Um, I I think like if you genuinely, I know you want to, like everyone wants to own. This is a desire people have. I mean, I've had this desire for years, right?
Hmm.
You need to wait. You need to wait, even if the offer is good. But what good is it if you buy and then you can't keep and then you lose the house? Like
Hmm.
I have read stories of people who bought a house that they couldn't afford and they had just enough money to get the house, right? With the down payment and all, but they didn't have enough money to furnish the house. Like if you're in such a situation where you don't even have enough money to furnish the house, you can't afford the house. And if you don't have enough money to maintain and repair the house, you also can't afford the house. Like when I bought this place, we did an inspection. Everything according to the inspection report was fine. But 3 years later, a part of the support beam of my balcony fell off into my neighbor's balcony.
Hmm.
Like it's dangerous. The balcony is 50 years old. It's falling apart, but I wasn't aware of that. Like apparently some water was rotting away the wood. And then I had to get quotes. The balcony, a new balcony cost me $17,000. This isn't something that I can just borrow money for. I had to actually like pay cold hard cash to pay up front. Like if you don't have $17,000 lying around like I do, what are you gonna do? You can't afford your
Hmm.
home. So, yeah, if you can't actually afford it, like as in big things like this happen, you just need $20,000 to fix something. You can't afford it. Don't do it. It's better to rent and save your money until you can actually afford for real.
Hmm. Our society is increasingly becoming more cashless, right? As you said, that it's becoming more like numbers and uh, but people sometimes, even if you don't have the actual cash in your hand or the cash in your like in your stocks or something like that, there is this like number kind of thing that is getting distributed, and people are actually buying and having transactions based on that. And it's been happening for a few years uh, as of now. So where do you see this going towards, and what would be the consequences of it?
Well, once people lose confidence in the dollar, and everyone wants to withdraw their cash from the bank, just like what we saw back in March with SVB, Signature Bank. There were two more, I think, back in March. I don't remember off the top of my head. Once we see bank runs happening, people will realize that they should have cash, but by the time that happens, it'll be too late to withdraw all your cash. Yeah, I want to tell people right now, if they're listening, please withdraw your cash from the bank. Just keep as little as possible needed to pay your bills, like things that come out on auto pay. Keep that in your bank, but anything else, please take it out. The moment you deposit your paycheck, your employer deposits your paycheck into your account, take what you can out, right? Like I personally, I bank with Charles Schwab Bank. And I asked Charles Schwab Bank, what is the maximum amount per day that I can withdraw from the ATM? Because Charles Schwab Bank is an online only bank. They don't have any brick and mortar branches that I can go into where I can actually go to the teller and withdraw as much cash out as possible. I have to go to an ATM, like any ATM around, and just take the cash. Last Tuesday, I went to Chelsea Bank to withdraw $1,000 out, and the ATM said, there is not enough cash in this ATM to give you $1,000. Please choose a lower amount. That's weird. Like, I've never seen that kind of message before where it says the ATM doesn't have enough money to give me 1,000. Like, come on, 1,000 is not a lot, right? So I ended up just going to a different credit union to pull 1,000 out. I've been pulling out 1,000 a day because that's my limit, and I need to pull out several thousand. And then on Thursday, I went into Needham Bank. It's near where I work, also to pull out 1,000. Same message. There's not enough cash in this ATM to withdraw and give you 1,000. Please choose a lower amount that's in multiple of 20, right? I was like, this bank also doesn't have enough to give me 1,000. That's not good. So I had to go to Bank of America to pull out 1,000. But yeah, it's already happening now, where there's a limit on how much cash you can take out of the bank.
Why do you think that it's happening?
Because the banks want to keep as much money in their bank as possible. They are fragile. We don't know which banks those are, because when the bank runs happened back in March, a lot of the smaller regional banks that are also in trouble, right? They got into some sort of like emergency program connected with the Fed. And so they have been through this program they've been doing. It's all confidential, but we know like a lot of banks are part of this emergency program to stay afloat. And if a lot of people right now take the money out of the bank in cash, they will also start to have liquidity problems, just like we witnessed back in March.
Do you think cryptocurrencies can solve this kind of issues?
I'm not so sure, because I'm not a crypto expert, and I don't keep up with the news with crypto, because it's my personal belief that the way people have been trading crypto has been more speculative, almost like it's a bubble. But I do see value in the technology that it uses. I think that has its value.
Crypto as of now is more used for trading other than a currency. There are very few places who that has allowed crypto to be used as currency, but crypto was the initial days of Bitcoin. It was built from the place of distrust towards traditional banking, right? It does not allow the government to intervene, and it keeps the receivers and the providers information a secret, and that is also used for doing a lot of illegal activities, because since you cannot track who is making this transaction, drug dealers and illegal stuff. Am I allowed to say this? I don't know. What? And so
Say what?
I've seen this like Netflix documentary on cryptocurrencies and like how this thing called Silk Road. I think it's famous now. So like how these websites purchasers and the transactions were happening through crypto because you cannot track the people who are using who are using bitcoins to make this kind of transaction. And a lot of new generation people compare Bitcoin with gold because since gold is there's kind of hard limitation. Bitcoin also has some kind of hard limitation like that when it comes to mining bitcoins. So a lot of people compare Bitcoin with gold. What's your take on that?
I don't have any take on that because I'll be very honest, I don't keep up with crypto. My husband has always pushed me to get into crypto, but I don't trust it. Like I inherently don't have any trust in something that's like new or digital. But that's because I'm a very old style kind of person. So, everyone has asked me on my channel to go into crypto and things like that, but I haven't even done much research on it. I'll be very honest with you. So I can't fully wholeheartedly talk about this subject.
So if you're not like up to date with what's happening like in crypto and the technology world, and people are coming up with these things as a solution to what's happening in the banking system and the financial system, as you're talking like people losing trust over the banks and the cash, and crypto was something that was made out of that kind of distrust. So what are like according to you,
But the
since
thing
you're
is,
not
I see
busy.
so many people losing their money due to crypto as well. Like I see so many people getting scammed money because of crypto. Like every
Hmm.
every few weeks I read about a scam, and then we read about Sam Bankman-Fried as well. I'm like, oh
Yes.
my god. So I inherently don't trust it because of
Hmm.
this newness to it. Um,
So, so like, what's your
like
solution?
I can't
Hmm.
I cannot believe people call it a currency because cryptocurrency. Like I cannot believe people call it a currency because it's not being used as currency. It's not actually being used. I don't see it being used day to day. Going to the store to buy groceries. I don't see that as a payment option. So
Yeah.
I cannot like fully wholeheartedly agree with that, right? Maybe some places online they take crypto as a form of payment,
Hmm.
but I don't think it's being used as currency as it's intended to be. It's more like a speculative investment as it is right now. So that's why I keep my hands off. I'm not
Hmm.
interested. Not interested. Yeah.
That's a very fair point. And some people, like people who are fans of crypto or anything new, to be honest, that excites them, they have like pushed a lot to legalize crypto and to accept crypto um, as a form of currency. But since crypto has this very shady side and it does not let the government intervene that much, it has taken a lot of time, or like it's going through a lot of struggle to accept some kind of legal legislation
Yeah, and
from the
and it's
government.
banned. It's banned in some countries. Like my employee in Nigeria said it's banned in Nigeria.
Hmm.
Government doesn't want anyone to have crypto. If you're caught having crypto, you can go to jail.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but governments are coming up with some kind of things like modern digital banking and
Which I
like.
also don't agree with.
Why
I
don't you
don't
agree with that?
well, I think there's an inherent invasion of privacy there. The government wants to move to like a digital dollar, digital yuan, all these like digital
Hmm.
payments, because it is in fact like a form of control. My piano teacher just
Hmm.
came back from China, and she told me it's like so much has changed in just 5 years. She last went there 5 years ago, and she said everyone pays with their phone now. Like
Hmm.
there are power bank stations all over the place, not to charge your phone, but to charge your power bank. Like the actual portable power bank that people carry with them. Like power
Hmm.
banks stations for that, so that people can always have their phone fully charged at all times. Because if you do not have a charged phone and your phone dies, you cannot buy anything. Everyone pays with their phone. They use like this digital yuan these days. Like she told me she went into an amusement park.
Hmm.
At all times, everyone knows where you are. You go into the amusement park, your wallet on your phone is tied to your government ID. So if you go to the amusement park and you enter, they know you've entered, right? But also for every ride that you get on within the amusement park, you also have to scan it again with your phone. So at any given time, they even know what ride you are on. You buy food at the amusement park, they know exactly what food you bought. Like that is the extent to the data that they have. And with this, I mean, there's nothing to stop a government from like shutting down someone's wallet and going like, well, we don't like this thing that you did. Rather than trying to prosecute you and put you into prison, we're just gonna like affect your ability to not buy anything. Or like you're gonna, we want you under house arrest, but it's a new form of house arrest. You don't have to leave your house, you know. We could say it's like a city arrest. We don't want you to leave your city anywhere outside the confines of the city. So you want to buy a train ticket from Shanghai to, let's say, Beijing, can't do it. Can't do it because it can shut you down, right? Like my friend, the same friend from earlier who was asking me all this time if I could set up a U.S. bank account and corporation for her to sell her products via TikTok to U.S. consumers. 2 years ago, she was in some sort of like business dealing with a partner who ended up scamming her, like took all the money out of their business and ran away with it. She told the police on him. They caught this guy. But instead of him going to jail, apparently his social credit is ruined. He can't do anything. Like he can't even buy tickets to get on a train.
Speaking of that, I didn't want to come to the social credit thing. I have heard about this Chinese system called the social credit score. So um, I have seen a documentary about it, about the rise of technology and how China is using it. So as you said, I don't know whether it's like applicable for every state, every Chinese state or not. Maybe it's there for the advanced states. I don't know about the rural states, but in the documentary they did talk about how everything is gets inspected by the Chinese government, and if you abide by the rules and abide by the regulations, then your credit score is very high, and the benefits that and there are certain kind of benefits that you get if you have a high credit score. And but if your credit score is low, let's say you did not follow traffic rule or something like that, it cuts off your credit score, and you get a bad reputation because of that. And because of that, um, it also disables you from accessing uh, certain kind of facilities that you would have gotten from the government. So, is this true? And like, how true is this? And what's your take on that?
I'm not so sure about this because the only stuff I have heard is from my actual like friends who have lived in China. So the friend who's doing the TikTok, I only hear from her or my piano teacher who's been to China recently. So I'm not really familiar with what is the name of this documentary that you watched. I want to check it out myself, actually.
I will look for it again. If I get it, I will LinkedIn. I will just text you the name through LinkedIn or something like that.
Yeah.
So, before this interview, I was talking about a game, and I think it will spice up our show, and it will make it more engaging. So this game is a game where I will give her clues, and out of the clues, she has to, using those clues, she has to guess the name of the brand or the person. And if she wins, she'll get to have a sip of water. And if she fails, then I will win. Then I'll get to have a sip of water, and the person who drinks more water wins because
Okay.
having more water is healthy. So Here comes the first name, and here comes the first clue. So guess the
So it's
name.
a person. It's a person.
No, it's a company. So
Oh, it's a
this
company.
company has over $10 trillion under asset management, which is like more than the GDP of a lot of countries.
Hmm.
That's the first clue.
Is it Deutsche Bank? I'm not really sure.
I did not hear like Deutsche Bank, so I'm not really sure either. Okay, so the
So
second
I got
clue
the
is,
answer wrong.
yeah, this is not
Okay.
the. But I have like four more clues, so you can like use it.
There's
Yes,
more clues. There's more
yes.
than one
You
clue.
can brainstorm ideas and you can say things whatever comes to your mind that's like relevant to the clue.
All right. I'm allowed to ask questions for the clues.
Yes, you can.
Um, which country did this bank originate from? Like
I'm not really sure about that.
this bank. Like where is it originally from?
Okay, I'm not really sure about the but I think it's from US. Don't quote on me from
It's
on
on the
this.
U.S.
I think
U.S.
it's from the US.
It's from the U.S. The biggest two are it's could be Bank of America or it could be Chase Bank. Those are the two largest. Next is I think
Okay.
Wells Fargo.
Mhm.
Yeah. One of
Okay,
those.
let's go to the second clue.
Okay.
Holds a major power in stock market, bond market, and other financial markets.
Huh?
This company holds a major power in bond market, stock market, and other financial markets.
This company holds. Can I get the third clue?
Okay, third clue is very funny. It has the name called Rock in the
Rock.
yeah
In the what? In the what?
in the company's name. In the company's name, there's a thing
Rock.
called Rock.
Really? This is a
Yes.
bank and there's a name called
No, it's
Rock
not a
in there?
bank. It's not a bank.
Oh. Oh, it's a
It,
company.
it's a company.
Oh no. BlackRock?
Right? You guessed it right.
Okay. All right. I
So
thought
you
this
get
whole time it was a bank. I'm sorry.
yeah, it's like BlackRock. I don't know whether you can see it.
All right. Yeah. It's upside down. Okay.
I need to figure this thing out, like how to display things on the camera. So it's a person. So the
Person.
second guess
Okay.
comes. This man has been married thrice and has at least four ex-girlfriends with 10 children and from three different mothers.
Yeah, it's Donald Trump. Right? He's been married 3 times.
I don't know how many times he have been married, but no, it's not
Oh, so
Donald
it's
Trump.
someone else? Someone
Yes,
else has been married thrice? Oh, man. This is some celebrity
but
gossip that I don't know about.
he's also rich, like Donald Trump. In fact, more rich than Donald Trump.
More rich than Donald Trump. Okay. Next clue.
He has two companies in two completely different fields.
Two completely different fields. Could it be Elon Musk? Is he in his third marriage?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, you guessed it right. You're doing it. You're doing very well. Here is Elon
Okay.
Musk. It
Great.
thumbs up. Even Elon Musk is happy. Okay, so here we go. Where are the other ones? Okay. This man allegedly stole the idea of $1 billion website.
Huh? Stole the idea of $1 billion website. Next clue.
He became a billionaire when he was 23 years old.
Is this the billionaire at 23? Is this Sam Bankman Fried?
Maybe he is. I don't know. I will not
Next
tell you.
clue.
Okay, so this is kind of a dad joke kind of clue. So you can like do his name when you're reading a PDF or a book as a
I can
student.
do his name? What does
Yes.
that mean? I can do his name.
Like you highlight or something like that important notes when you're reading a book or a PDF.
Huh?
Yes.
It's you mean as in because of him I can highlight things in a
No.
PDF
And like
or
his name has similarity um, to the action that you're taking.
to the action that I'm taking? No, that's too vague of a clue. Fourth clue, please.
He is the founder of a social media company.
Oh, then there's no other way. It must be Mark Zuckerberg, right?
Yes.
Because there's
Yes.
no one who became that rich at 23 years old.
Yes. The reason I said that, like, you can mark stuff in the book, and while like you're reading a PDF, so
Because his
mark.
first name is Mark.
Yes. So these are the first few like guesses I had. So what do you think about the game? You correctly guessed all of them. Oh, I have another one. Okay. So
Yeah, I've only done 3 so far, right? Yeah.
yeah.
There's 2 more to go.
Actually I think this is the last one. So
Oh, okay.
okay, the logo of this billion-dollar company was designed for just $35.
$35. Never heard of it. Okay.
Okay. So the second clue is the slogan of this company was inspired by the last words of a murderer.
Last words are. Oh no, I think you're gonna win this one. What's the next clue?
It's a shoe company. You cannot get more
It's a
obvious.
shoe company. I can't get it wrong. Must be Zappos.
Nope.
No.
No.
Shoes. As in shoes. They make shoes, or they're shoe retail.
I think they make shoes.
Oh,
Like
they make
they're like
shoes.
top shoe brand in the world.
Top shoe brand in the world.
Like business students have to read their case studies and stuff like that when they're learning
Students
business.
have to read their case studies.
Yes.
Perhaps it's Nike.
Yep. You got that right.
Okay. All right.
So you won all of them.
All
So you
right.
will get
Thank
all of
goodness.
the water.
But I don't have to. I'm not going to drink water because I have to use the bathroom.
You should drink water because it will keep you hydrated.
I'll drink water after I use the toilet.
So did you enjoy the game? It's
Yes.
something new that I'm like trying to make
Yes.
the show more engaging.
I was actually very scared, but I
Why
think
would
I
you
did
be
fine.
scared?
Because I'm usually a loser of games. I'm
But
a
you won every one of them here.
terrible at games. That's great.
Yeah, so it seems like you have a very good knowledge about the world that's happening
Mm.
around the world. So yeah, so did you enjoy the game?
Of course. Thank you.
Let's see what happens in the future. These are the like very powerful people, and a lot of depends on these companies and a lot of these people. Especially like a few days ago, Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk were supposed to have a cage fight. I don't know like what happened to that right now, but yeah. So these are some of the people who are pioneering the world in the future. Like Mark Zuckerberg is pushing towards the metaverse, and the I don't know like what's his vision for the metaverse, but it seems like when the company was rebranded, I've heard news that a lot of like companies are setting up the marketing campaigns, like meta marketing campaigns, and they're like people were purchasing lands in metaverse, and people compare it with Roblox as to like you purchase things and assets, digital assets in metaverse, and you can like video conference um, through metaverse. It feels like through an avatar and something like that. So yeah, I mean, interesting times to live in.
Yeah, definitely. That people are spending money on digital land.
I was very surprised when I interacted with one of my cousins. So he was playing this game, and his dad like brought him
Huh?
digital skin for this gaming character,
Okay.
and it cost like around a few $100.
What?
And and it's something that you cannot feel or touch, but it's something that improves the performance of the character in the game.
I see.
So yeah, I was maybe I becoming old school. I don't know. I'm not.
You're only 20 years old.
Yeah, so I'm not really familiar with that, because when I was young, like the most of the time it used to be like playing outdoors when it comes to um, like having entertainment or doing sports related stuff. And but to be honest, even now I'm like a lot of my outdoor activities have reduced, and it's becoming more online centric.
Hmm.
So yeah, and to be honest, when I'm becoming more busy and to like what will I do with my career and my dreams and stuff like that, it becomes very hard and distracting to focus on your sports and outdoor activities. And
Yeah.
yeah, so um you were talking about like jobs before the interview. You would like to we said that we would like to talk about jobs as well, and you shared like one of a very funny and weird stories where the employer like demanded so much work experience uh, for this little job. I mean, it's pretty absurd, to be honest. But if you think about it, a lot of employers uh, want wants more skills and experience compared to your degree. And there's this debate which graduates face is to which one to prioritize more, whether it's skills and experience or your CGPA or degree. So what's your take on that?
I think more and more employers are moving away from valuing the degree and more
Yeah.
over like the skills, not just skills, but soft skills. A lot of employers complain that they can't find a job candidate that has the kind of experience and the skills that they're looking for. It seems like there's this constant gap. But I think it goes both ways. You know, probably part of the problem is most likely that the employers are not willing to train. They want someone who's just like ready to be hired and then can take off running, right?
Hmm.
It doesn't work
Hmm.
that way. There's always like a learning curve to any job because every company, even if it's like doing the same job, they do things a little bit differently. Every company has different expectations, different rules, different ways of doing things. Like,
Hmm.
hey, maybe company A does it this way, but no, we want you to do it this way. This is our standard, and we want things done to our standard. So companies also do need to train, but it is true that companies are moving away from valuing the degree. They might be able to be open to accepting other forms of education. Back in around 2019, I had attended a meetup for this group called Financial Independence, and one of the people in the group was working at Harvard University. I think she does something in like the career center for Harvard University, and she was saying that based on like the companies that they try to partner with, they're actually more open now to people who have taken micro courses. So like not like a full-fledged degree, but like if you take a couple courses in like a specific subject, um, that is targeted for the kind of job that they're looking to hire, they'd prefer a candidate who did that over someone who got like the whole degree, because the whole degree is like 4 years of a whole variety of subjects, right? So
Hmm.
they're open to hiring people who have some sort of certification or have taken a few courses in a particular subject.
If degrees are becoming less important to employers, then what kind of value is the system of student loans is giving to the people who are taking it?
Um, I think student loans can provide value for people's education because not everyone can afford to go to school, and not everyone can get enough grants or scholarships to cover school. So there is still some value there if you're smart about where you go to school, what you study, and if you can still find like the most affordable program out there for you, and also take advantage of all the resources that the school has to offer, like every single kind of opportunity, go after them, because it's really more about the individual. Like don't let your school do the talking for you. You have to learn how to sell yourself and your own skills in the marketplace. It's what people have forgotten. It's always been this case when you're interviewing for a job. When an employer wants to hire someone for a job, it's about solving a problem. The employer has this problem in the workplace. They want someone to come in who has experience to solve the problem. It's not like, hey, we're hiring you because we want these 10 tasks done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's always more about like let's say I have an employee right now. What problem am I having right now? I said, hey, we need to sell the 5-day job search book. This is the problem. We want to make more sales. So I'm not saying, hey, your job is to help me with social media. No. The ultimate problem is we need to sell millions of this book. Help me solve this problem. And once we get up to 100,000 in sales, you're going to be on commission. So you'll make some money based on the revenue that the sales bring in, right? So that is the problem. It's not like I hired her to do social media. Social media is just one of the solutions and tasks to help us solve this problem. Does this kind of example make sense to you? Where when you're hired to do a job, you're really hired to solve someone's problem. You're not hired just to do things that are handed to you.
So student loans helps you to get through school, but schools don't teach you any skill. It rarely teaches problem solving skills. So that puts into question how much relevant is school in this era.
No, right? I think is not the best question. It's kind of like a leading question. It leads to like a yes or no answer. There is no yes or no answer to this question, right? Like if you had to take on student loan debt to go to school, let's say if you wanted to become an engineer and there was just no other way for you to be able to go to school, that would have been fine, so long as you found like an as affordable program as possible. Like you don't need to go to school for $100,000. If you can find something where you only have to borrow $15,000, which is a better option, do it. So it's more about borrowing as little as possible. If you really can't afford to do it any other way. Problem solving. I wouldn't say it's not that school doesn't teach you this. I think teachers genuinely do want to teach you the skill, but it's not a skill that can be taught, no matter what the setting. It's more of this, you as an individual, you need to learn how to see the world through problems. Like to be able to look at a problem and go like, hey, there's a problem here. Maybe we can come up with a solution. That is all on the individual. It doesn't matter how much a teacher tries to teach you critical thinking. I think it's something, I think it's more like the teacher can teach, but can the student learn? Kind of thing. Like lately, I got a parking ticket last week from the city of Chelsea. I had tried to appeal the parking ticket, and in conversation with this person appealing this ticket, she said, oh, well, you should have known about the rules. We posted the rules on social media. And then I was like, do you think that I follow our city's social media to find out about the rules? Like, do you think I wake up and I'm like, I should really follow the city of Chelsea on Twitter to find out what all the rules are? Like, I don't think so. She's like, well, we blasted it all over our social media, so everyone must know about these rules. And then I was like, do you really think that's how social media works? So after that, I went home and I went on all their social media. They had a Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. They had 4 social medias. And we have about almost 30,000 adults living in my city. They don't even have 30,000 followers on social media. And I was looking at all their posts, and they had 6 likes on a Facebook post, 30 views on a Twitter post, 9 likes on a different post. I'm like, if you're only getting like not even 10 likes on your post, nobody's looking at your post. You can't tell me that you blasted it all over social media. Therefore, everyone must know about this thing that you posted. It's quite clear you have no engagement, right? So I was
Mm.
like, this, but rather than complaining, you see, I think most people would complain, oh, I can't believe the city gave me a ticket and they're saying I should have known about it through social media. Now, I think that's what the normal person would do, but it's better if you can look at it like, wait, this is a genuine problem that people from our city government genuinely, like with their heart, believe that if they posted something on social media, people must know about it. It's like if a tree falls in a forest and no one heard it, did it actually fall? Kind of thing, right? So I actually made a video directed to the city of Chelsea on my YouTube channel. And I said, hey, this is a genuine problem. If you think you're reaching residents and communicating your message effectively through social media, that's not true. Let me show you why that's the case. Look, you have only 5 likes here, 9 likes there, 30 views here. Are you really reaching 30,000 people that need to hear what you have to say? So I suggested to them, I said, here are some like cost-effective solutions where you can email residents. Businesses these days, we have email marketing and newsletters and stuff like that. Why can't the city set up some sort of email newsletter? I mean, they're already collecting your email address every time you have to fill out a form to get a parking permit with the city. Why can't they take those email addresses that they're getting when people fill out that form for the parking permit and add this to some sort of email newsletter for their announcements and blasts? It's a really easy to set up. It's not that difficult. And so it's a problem that I saw, and I offered a solution. So I don't think a school can teach you this. I think it's more like looking at everyday problems that you experience in your life and thinking like, how can we make this better? This is the only way to learn it.
I think by teaching, you cannot, like, of course, you cannot teach problem solving skills like you teach math or anything that's rigid. But I think school can do a better job into as to providing the environment through which they can subconsciously enrich the mind of a child. Because when a child is young, like he or she absorbs everything like a sponge, like the information that's being provided to them. And when you're just sitting in a classroom and you're just looking at the board, you're not taking three-dimensional information. You're taking information just through words and through the things that you're seeing in front of the board. But if you're like making them engage in certain kind of activities in a way that it's going to interest them and it's going to pique their interest, like in like a small problem solving sets or something like that, in a way that will interest children usually, then I think it will engage all of their senses, which will help them to remember the stuff that they read in school. The one of the reasons which we do not remember stuff is because we are not using our senses when it comes to memorizing and like reading our stuff from school and universities. We're just doing it for uh, we're just doing it for the I don't know, just passing the grade. But I don't I don't really know like what's the real use of this knowledge. And that is why in the place where I live in, there's this thing where a lot of people, even if you graduate with a high CG and like high grades, you cannot get a good job because there's a huge gap between the practical knowledge and the bookish knowledge that you're having. So even if you're like highly qualified people, you're not getting the job.
I have to agree with some of the things you're saying, where yes, they can definitely still do a better job by providing the environment, but there is still merit to memorization. I
Hmm.
used to think that as well because I'm a straight A student, and at some point during my school years, I was like, oh, isn't this like I'm just learning to the test. And then after the exam, I have forgotten a lot of the things that I have memorized, right? But in a way, it is still a good practice to do. Learning short term memory skills is a skill in itself, how to retain memory in your short term brain,
Hmm.
right? And even if you don't think the information is applicable to your life right now, a lot of information could be applicable to later on in your life. I think information builds on itself. Like the more you learn, the more you're able to connect to something you learned in the past, and then the faster, more efficiently you learn. Like over the last few years, I have learned so many things, from actual like skills like typing faster to learning public speaking, learning how to use my voice better, taking the acting class that I took recently, learning piano. And they're all related to each other in a way. Like I prior to this, I never saw how everything's so interconnected. But as I learn more things that don't seem like they're connected at all, I'm like, oh, actually, like I've been learning piano for 2 years, right? And then but there are still some things I struggle with when it comes to learning piano. And then I walked into an acting class. Okay. One of the things in acting class that I learned was they said, remember a moment that made you feel a certain way. And then naturally, you can portray those kind of emotions. So just think of a moment in the past where your body physically felt a certain way, where your emotions felt a certain way, and you'll naturally evoke that in your performance. Now, something that my teacher has struggled to get me to do on the piano for the last 2 years is how to add more weight to my arm. So apparently, in piano, we have to just relax our arms and our hands while also keeping form and just let gravity do its thing. Like if we really let our hand and arm relax, it's actually very heavy. But I couldn't mimic that heaviness. She said, imagine your hand's a wet towel. I mean, like, but I've never been a towel. How can I imagine my hand a wet towel? You know? So then finally, because of the acting class, totally unrelated, I thought like, when has there been a time in my life when I felt really heavy, like to the point like I felt like I was dragging my body? And I was like, oh, when I took sleeping pills. Every time I take sleeping pills because I have insomnia, it forces my body to be so heavy that like I could hardly lift my arm. And if I can just remember what it feels like to be on a sleeping pill and apply that to the piano, I can play with more weight. And I went back to my piano teacher. I was like, I think I can play with more weight. And then I was able to do it. She's like, how did you do that? So just like that, something that I learned in an acting class, totally unrelated, I applied it to piano. So I think maybe the things we think we learn in school are not applicable, not helpful. But at some point, if you're able to learn a whole bunch of things, you might find how it's interconnected to the things you're doing now.
But if you forget the things that you're learning, then how would you reconnect it in the future?
You take notes. Everything I learn, I take notes. I keep a whole library of notes and I type it up into a computer for review later. And then later on, I look at it like it's a whole web of interconnected ideas. Well, like, for example, I took Anthropology 101 when I was back in college. I don't remember anything from that class except for one concept that I learned in that class. And you would think like, well, what is so important in Anthropology 101? It's just like a social science class. You know, a lot of people, I think, would have forgotten what they learned in Anthropology 101. There is this one concept that my professor taught in the first week. He said, in our human society, there are 4 forms of capital. Now, we always think there's financial capital, but that financial capital, meaning having money, is only one form of capital to being highly regarded and successful in our careers. There's more forms. Another one is symbolic capital, which I don't even remember what that means anymore. Another form is social capital, having like the right form of connections, right? Because you can have a lot of money, but if you don't have connections, you don't have power. And then there's recognition, like being recognized for your work. It's one thing to say like you're a great author. It's another thing to be recognized as a great author by an outside body, by an institution, right? So there's 4 forms of capital. And if you can accumulate these 4 forms of capital, you'll have a great career in our society. It's not just about having a lot of money.
It's something very deep, and to understand this, you need to think about it and critically like ponder about it.
Yeah,
but unfortunately, we don't have that much time right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been, I did not even realize, to be honest, that it's been like such a long time because the conversation was like flowing so naturally,
Yeah.
and like I did feel like it was very meaningful, and to be honest, I feel I have a lot of things to talk about, but I don't want to make this episode very long. It's already like um,
An
one
hour
hour
and a
30 minutes.
half. Yeah.
Yes, and how hour and a half long. So the last question I would like to ask is: in the beginning of the episode, we talked about a lot of things that could go wrong and that will go wrong probably. I hope not something that happens in the future, but what if something does? And so that students who are uncertain about their future, or young people uncertain about their finances and their education and the future, what would be your advice for them?
I would like to say that things will get bad, but if you prepare yourself, I don't think things will be too bad for you. Like people who are people who have what employers are looking for, they will always be in high demand. So even in like a bad economy, it's not like there will be no jobs. It's just like there's fewer jobs to go around and they go to less people, but they go to the best people. So you want to be in the best pile. You're in school right now, you're learning, it's excellent. But if you want to prepare for 1 to 2 years from now to come out and have a great job as like a great first job out of college, then I recommend you already start thinking about what kind of job you want to have. Like, think about what title you want to have coming out and research those positions. So, like, let's say you want to have like a entry level accounting job.
Hmm.
I'm an accountant, so that's what comes to mind right away. Then an entry level accounting job position, the title for that job, you see, they all have specific titles, is staff accountant. So you just go on Google and you type into Google staff accountant job listings. Now open up those listings and analyze them. What are employers looking for? Now, I've been teaching a specific method to my coaching clients recently on how to use ChatGPT to analyze job listings. So you can literally
Hmm.
copy and paste one of those job listings, and in ChatGPT you prompt ChatGPT and you say, ChatGPT, this is a job listing for a staff accountant role, please analyze for me what is it that the employer is looking for in their ideal candidate, and how do I communicate to the employer via my resume that I am that ideal candidate, and then paste the listing that you just copied.
Hmm.
ChatGPT will spit out this analysis. Okay, do this 20 times. So do this with 20 different job listings. So you'll basically have like 20 different job listing analyses, right? Now what you want to do is you want to like pour over them, read those 20 different analyses. Like, what is the common theme? How many years of experience are they looking for? Do they want a specific experience in this software, right? What do they want? You've compiled this list of what they want in general, not like one company wants, but like in general, what 20 companies are looking for, right? You have this list and start hacking away at it. You can say, okay, well, I've met what they want in A, B, C, but then I don't have D, D, E, F. Now is the time during your school years to start working toward learning how to do that. Whether that's like taking an online course that will teach it because your school curriculum in your university doesn't offer it, but like that's how you close the gap between what the employer is looking for and what you're missing. I think
Hmm.
if you start doing that now in the next 1 to 2 years, by the time you finish college, you'll come out far better off than your peers because you will have a better CV and LinkedIn profile than they do.
Hmm. Well, thank you, Annie, for coming on to my show and sharing your valuable knowledge and experience.
Mashur, thank you so much for inviting me to your show. I'm very happy to have been your first guest. I hope you keep podcasting because a lot of podcasts they stop after 12 episodes, but
Hmm.
it's very good that you're 20 years old right now and you're taking the initiative to start a podcast. You want to reach people in Gen Z. You want to get this information out there to people in your own generation. And I
Hmm.
commend you for that. A lot of people, they don't take this kind of initiative. Now, what I do hope is that you keep it up, right? Have the discipline to keep
Hmm.
going, even if the podcast isn't going well. Can you do 100 episodes? Can you do 200? Because that is also something that employers are looking for. They want to see someone who has commitment and discipline, and you can convey that through doing your weekly podcasts.
To be honest, since you talked about growth, I am trying to grow my podcast. I don't, it's very hard, and the future is uncertain because you need to put in a lot of hours to it, into editing and to organizing the content that you have. But I have my other life as well, and my parents do feel concerned about it. Like, you need to learn to balance stuff, but they're not like, oh, you need to, don't do it. Like, they're not like traditional parents, and I'm like glad about that. So yeah, thank you, Annie, for
You're
appreciating
welcome.
me, and it'll help me to push forward in the future.
Yes, I understand it's time consuming, but there are other hosts that with busy lives, they still manage to have a weekly show and they've managed to
Hmm.
do over 500 episodes. So s- learn how to use your time more efficiently, right? There are other hosts that also do live shows so that they don't have to edit. It's just one take and that's what goes out. So figure out, like, explore different options, see what will work for you. See, this is also something problem solving. You're having this problem.
Hmm.
You're like, I lack the time, but don't view it like that. View it like, how can I solve this problem? And that will help you develop those problem solving skills you really want. Yeah.
To be honest, I started this podcast as a solution to a problem as well. Is to, like, the problem is not being able to network with people, and I feel like at that time I felt like podcasting will help me reach people who I never thought I would be able to reach. So to
This
be
is the
honest,
right way. This is the way.
yeah.
No, you are no, 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 no. You're on point. This is what you should be doing. Like if someone came to me and was in college and they asked me how can I network now so that I can come out already having a huge network to tap into,
Hmm.
that's how I would do it. And in fact, um, not just through Matchmaker or Podmatch, whichever
Hmm.
site you use to find
Hmm.
me,
Hmm.
but what I would do is whatever industry you're looking to get into. So I'm assuming it's finance because that's what you had an interest in.
Hmm.
Go on Amazon and look for who recently, sort by release date, released
Hmm.
books in the business and finance category. Those
Hmm.
people who released a book recently, they'd be more open to speaking to you about
Hmm.
their book and the
For
kind of
promotions.
knowledge that they can have to share.
Hmm.
And that's the kind of people you want to network with. When people say, "Oh, you should go to college because you'll network with people there." But why? Like, why would you want to network with other people who have no connections?
Hmm.
Like, the people in school with you right now are your same age. They're not able
Hmm.
to help you get a job. And then are you going to, like, reach out to them 10 years from now and say, "Hey, we went to the same college. Can you get me an opportunity?" Like, it doesn't work like that. So honestly, who you want to network with are people who have larger networks than you. And the only way to do that is to network with people who are already well established in their industry. So it's a good thing you're doing this podcast, but also, like, niche down, right? And look
Hmm.
for the authors who have recently released a book in this subject area. Yeah.
That's one of the ways I use to reach out to people, to be honest,
Mhm.
and I was aware of it. And like, there are like few ways I use to reach out to people. One of them is like Facebook groups. The other one is the matchmaking website, and the other one is like what you mentioned. And yeah, that's one of the ways that you can reach out to people. It also like teaches skills like how to write emails, how to be formal, how to approach people. Like, a lot of things go on behind the scenes
Yeah.
here. So
So you're doing really well. Keep up the great work. I think you're
and
doing wonderful.
and I'm like pretty happy about it because it allowed me to reach out to people. Let's Like, I have met a roboticist through this podcast. I got to connect with him, and like, he's building a nursing home robot, and his company is all about robots. I
Mm.
got to you'll get like there are like eight episodes, 7 or 8 episodes on my YouTube channel. You go to the podcast playlist and you'll get some of the episodes here. So I got to meet a person who used to work for NASA. Like she worked for NASA for like 26 years, and we talked about space and the future of humanity and like contribution of space. That's something I'm also interested about. And recently, I'm like trying to connect with guests through LinkedIn because I don't want it to be like, oh, you recorded the podcast, that's over. No, I want to build some kind of connection with people, and I think LinkedIn can be a good way to do that. Plus, I'm also like seeing who they're following and who they're interested about, and I'm trying to also reach out to them and interact with them so that I can enrich the quality of the show.
Yeah. Well, wonderful.
So thank you, Annie, for coming to my show.
You're welcome. I'm very happy to be here today.